I am back from the Olympic Games. Steven Nedoroscik has joined Dancing with the Stars, and the German Bundesliga season is right around the corner. For those new here, I'm Kensley, the host of Neutral Deductions, a podcast all about men's gymnastics. This is episode 46, where I update you on men's gymnastics news around the globe.
This is the Neutral Deductions podcast, men's gymnastic news, coverage, and analysis.
So I am back from working the Paris Olympic Games. I still cannot believe that is an experience I actually got to have and enjoy, and I took about a month off exactly. It was a much needed break, and I'll sort of get into why I needed such a long break. But I just wanted to give you a little bit of the behind the scenes of what it was like working with NBC and just what a wonderful experience it was. So I was one of the researchers, and specifically I was on the daytime team, which meant I was working with 2008 Olympic bronze medalist Justin Spring and 2016 Olympic champion Laurie Hernandez. So my role was to help prep them in whatever manner that they wanted. So some of them wanted more prep time, others preferred to do more prep on their own. And then, of course, during the actual competition, I was sitting next to them and then just giving them tips or things that I saw, because they were really only looking at the screen of what the world feed was showing them or what NBC was showing them at that time. And so I was able to look more around the arena saying, oh, this was a really interesting routine, or saying, I think, potentially like this would be an interesting thing to show. And then, of course, all of the supervisors and the producers above me would, of course, they made all of the executive decisions. So my role was mainly just helping the commentators be able to have up-to-date and accurate information. And I have never, just working with this team, I don't know that I've ever worked in an environment where everyone just liked each other so much, and it was so positive and uplifting, and people came prepared and worked really hard to make sure that the right coverage was given, and it was truly an honor, and I hope I get the opportunity again. I think one of the most just sort of like eye-opening moments for me, and moments where I thought, wow, I can't believe this is real life, is actually Tim Daggett had asked me my opinion on something, and it was just such a unusual and amazing moment for me, because I learned gymnastics terminology by watching Tim Daggett, or listening to Tim Daggett's voice for years on NBC commentary, and to have him say, hey, Kensley, like, what do you think about this? That was a really cool moment for me, to feel like I was respected, and the knowledge that I have to give by someone who I have so much respect for, and who I think has given so much to the sport. So that's just a little bit of the behind the scenes of what it was like working with NBC. And then coming back to the US, I actually was a bit sad and kind of suffered and struggled with this idea of like, okay, well, what's next? And, you hear Olympic medalists talk about this, but I didn't expect to necessarily feel it myself. And I got done with this amazing opportunity, and I came back, and I was like, man, I don't really know where to go from here. And, how do I move Neutral Deductions forward and keep covering men's gymnastics, because it's a pretty slow season right now. Yes, there's Bundesliga and there's a few other international competitions here and there, but it isn't really like heavy focused, whereas gearing up for this year, everything was leading up to the Olympics. And so coming back, I really felt like I needed a break to step aside and say, okay, let me reset and let me figure out how to move Neutral Deductions forward. So I'm really pleased and happy to be back. And just one other thing I want to mention about NBC before I move forward, and is just generally I want to mention how difficult it is for journalists also to get to the Olympics. So we talk about, athletes, there are so many amazing athletes who never make it. And for people in media, the same is true. You can work your whole life and never make it to work in Olympic Games. And for NBC specifically, only 10% of their staff was on site. And so that, of course, was a huge honor to be part of that. And just for comparison, for gymnastics specific media, only 2 gymnastics specific journalists get to go to the Olympics. And this year it was Jessica O'Byrne from the Gymcastic podcast and Patricia Duffy Fisk from Gymnastics Now. And there's just such a small cohort who actually get to go and participate and cover. And so whether or not I get another gig at an Olympics, I'm certainly so grateful that I had this opportunity, but hopefully there will be more to come. So other news aside from my experience at the Olympics is Steven Nedoroscik has been selected for Dancing with the Stars. He is a 2-time Olympic medalist, and he is going to be partnered with Riley Arnold, who is a legacy on the show. So Riley's first season with Dancing with the Stars was last year, and her older sister Lindsay Arnold actually won the coveted Mirror Ball Trophy in 2017. And if you're not following them on social media, I can't recommend it enough. Riley, of course, had Steven do the Rubik's Cube, and then Steven took Riley into a gym to try pommel horse, and the two of them are just doing such a good job creating really entertaining content and getting the word out more about men's gymnastics. So they were able to create a team name. It's something that every team does, and I actually think it's a pretty fantastic play. So Riley's last name is Arnold, and then Steven's, of course, his one event is pommel horse, and so they've dubbed themselves Team Arnold Pommel, which I think is a fantastic play on an Arnold Palmer drink. The season is going to begin on September 17th. And if you would like to support them, there are different ways. You can text, you can call, there's all sorts of ways. So if you would like to vote and support Steven, make sure that you keep that on your radar this season. Also, a way for you to support men's gymnastics and go see them all around the country is on Simone Biles' Gold Over America Tour, otherwise known as the GOAT Tour. So I believe all of the Olympic athletes, with the exception of Steven, who is going to be on Dancing with the Stars, and then Asher Hong, who unfortunately Stanford did not give him an exemption for to perform with Dancing with the Stars. And from what I've heard, it has something to do with the NIL rules and Stanford's understanding of the NIL rules and what is allowed to be done. Now, there are some currently competing NCAA athletes who are joining the tour, and that is Frederick Richard and Paul Judah, and then, of course, Bertie Malone, who is a former NCAA athlete but is now training at Evo. They will all be on the tour, as well as some of the alternates. So Shane Wiskus is going to be on the tour, Joel Moldauer is going to be on the tour, and Ian Gunther, who is a social media master, is also going to be on the tour. So you can see them all around the country starting from the end of September throughout the fall. So check a city near you. Some interesting changes are happening with the NCAA. So the NCAA Rules Committee has been really busy this year contemplating what set of rules they are going to be using. And according to several sources, the committee actually voted to accept a 10-0 system, which was later overturned. So they are not going to be moving forward with a 10-0 system. And to my knowledge, this set of rules has not actually been finalized, but they are going to end up sticking with some version of the open-ended code with some sort of modification. So I'll keep you updated once I know more on what to expect ahead of the 2024-2025 NCAA season. In the NCAA, there have also been several coaching changes. So Stanford is making the biggest changes to its coaching roster. So longtime Stanford coach Mark Freeman has accepted a job with the UCLA women's program, and his job has not been filled as of yet. Stanford University is offering $66,000 to $75,000 to replace him. So if you would like to be a coach in the NCAA, or if you're looking to switch locations or universities, that job is available. I believe there is also going to be one other coaching change at Stanford, though that hasn't been publicly released, so keep your eyes on that to come. So pommel horse standout and OU alum Michael Reed has moved to the Air Force Academy from Army. He is going to be replaced by Jake Bonnet, who is previously at Greenville, and I checked as of today, September 11th, and Greenville hasn't posted Jake Bonnet's job, but they are in the market for a graduate assistant. So if you are looking to get a master's or PhD and have that paid for, and also get involved in NCAA coaching, that is a place where you could get some coaching experience and a graduate degree. The German Bundesliga is set to start later this week, and the Bundesliga is a German competition setting, and they can use international athletes. Famously, they've used athletes like Heath Thorpe and other athletes from around the globe. And I am actually going to be doing a podcast with Heath Thorpe in the coming weeks where he is going to help explain what the Bundesliga system is, who's competing, what to watch for, how you can watch, how does their scoring system work. So they sort of use this modified FIG system, but they also have a 5.0 system that's really easy for the audience to understand. And I've been to a couple of Bundesliga meets. I lived in Germany for several years, and they're really interesting, and they're always full with knowledgeable people in the crowd, and they're really rowdy, and it's just a really, really cool environment. So if you live in Europe, I highly recommend going to go see one of the Bundesliga competitions later this fall. Now, in other news of upcoming podcast, I am going to be interviewing Kathy Sue Rupp, who is a Category 2 brevet judge, and we're going to be going over all of the changes for the 2025 to 2028 Code of Points, and she's also going to explain how do you become a judge? What is it like judging? She's also one of the foremost experts on judging bias, and was getting a PhD in that, and studied and was doing a large meta-analysis and has collected her own research. So I'm really excited to share that interview with all of you, and that should be coming out next week, I believe. Looking forward, there are a couple more competitions left for this year. So the Swiss Cup and the Mixed Team Cup, these are those like really high paying competitions that happen in Switzerland, and the full competition rosters haven't been announced yet, but keep an eye on social media and certainly on Neutral Deductions Instagram page, and we'll be filling you in on who is competing there. As I mentioned earlier, the Bundesliga competition is coming up later this week, so I will have links for how you can watch that. And then the last World Challenge Cup, I believe, of the year is the Sammelte World Challenge Cup that is coming up soon, and really, really exciting. Of course, most of the Olympians are taking time off and recuperating, but one of my favorite floor workers, Emil Soravo, is coming back. He had a pretty difficult set of injuries over the past year, and so it's really excited to see him back on the floor. He won a medal at the 2021 World Championships and is going to be one to watch certainly in the upcoming Olympic cycle. Some quick-fire Gymternet news. Lucas Dowser had a baby, and so did Courtney Tulloch, and so exciting news for them, and best wishes to them as they become parents. And then Swiss standout Christian Baumann has retired. If you are missing having that gymnastics competition recap podcast, I highly recommend that you catch up and check up with our podcast with Sam Oldham. He spent over an hour and a half with me talking through everything that happened at the Olympic Games. So if you just sort of are needing that catch up or wanting to rehash old competitions, I highly recommend that one for you. We have gotten so many more 5-star reviews. Thank you so much for those taking the time to write on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcast. This one was from Jackselina, who said, "Great coverage of men's artistic gymnastics. Neutral Deductions is an excellent resource for men's gymnastics coverage. Thank you to the host and guests for providing great coverage and a balance of educating those new to the sport and informing seasoned fans." So if you would like to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcast, it really helps us at Neutral Deductions, and it helps others find and learn more about men's gymnastics. So if you would like to help bring this coverage to life, please consider donating. A massive thank you to everyone who donated throughout the Olympic season. We do this year round, so any donation at any time certainly helps. The PayPal link is in every show note and at the bottom of every article on neutraldeductions.com, and you can also donate via PayPal or Stripe. If you have any questions, comments, or insider tips, you can email us at neutraldeductions@gmail.com. That's all for this week. We'll see you next time.